Good morning. I'm very excited about this morning. My daughter's back from college, and all of our, beloved friends and brothers are here, and I'm just very honored to speak today. Today's message is going to be about how God has all of our lives planned. How He will guide you all of your life, whether you are little and you haven't started life, or you're like in the later part of your life. God will continue to guide you. And today's message about God will do this. And I'm gonna make 2 points today. Underneath that is, number one, honoring your mother and father, honoring your parents is a must. And my second point is that I will call it match made in heaven. So God will help you when you're little. Let's say you're in school, what you're going to study in college, if you're going to go to college, where to go to college, where to work, where to live, as far as housing, what town, or where to purchase a house if you're going to purchase a house or rent, or whom to even marry. So that match made in heaven. So I have 2 points. You got to honor your parents, and 2, that God has actually matched everything for you already. He has already planned your life in some way, and we're going to talk about how that is so from this very story in Genesis 24. And it's exciting. If you're young, it's exciting. If you're not young, it's exciting, because it's just great to know that God can actually get you where you need to be. And sometimes you don't know where you need to be. And so let's read from Genesis 24. We're going to stay on the chapter 24. It's a little lengthy, but hopefully we have enough time to cover it. So we will pick up from... So what happened was, in the last week, we talked about how Abraham tested with Isaac. God tells him to take his son, his beloved son, one and only son, to the mountain, to Mount Moriah, to sacrifice him. He does that, and in between, we're skipping chapter 23. His wife Sarah dies. I'm not going to read it. I'm going to skip it. We're going to go right into the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. This is chapter 24, verse 1. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord blessed Abraham in all things. Since it's lengthy, I'm going to stop. So the Bible is telling us that he has advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. Yeah, it requires a pause. That God does bless us in all things. You got to see that sometimes even the things that we interpreted as bad things, if you are walking with God, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. You just don't have eyes yet. That you're blessed. He will bless you in all things. All the things that will happen to you, it's going to be a blessing to you. You may see otherwise, but it's not. Let's continue. And Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his house, who had a charge of all that he had, put your hand under my thigh, and I'll make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but will go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife for my son Isaac. The servant said to him, perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, see to it that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your descendants I will give this land. He will send his angels before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this oath of mine. Only you must not take my son back there." So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master and swore to him concerning this matter. Quick summary. Abraham says to one of his servants, "Put it under my leg. Swear to me that you will not get a wife for my son among the Canaanite women. But you will go to my family and you will take somebody from my family." And the servant says, "What if the lady doesn't want to come? Your family lives in Haran. Haran is 600 miles away, 1,000 kilometers away. What if she doesn't want to come?" Abraham says, if she doesn't want to come, then you're released from your oath. Then you don't have to, but you're not going to take my son there. Nor you can take a wife from the Canaanites that we're living among. So there's almost no choice except that there's a lady coming from Haran, from his side of the family. And he says, he will send his angel before you. Why? Who spoke to me and swore to me. God, you see the kind of relationship Abraham has got with God, has with God. God has sworn to me. I can take his oath. I can take his word. Verse 10. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. And he arose and went to the Mesopotamia, the city of Nahor. Nahor is just very close to Haran in southern Turkey. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water. He said, "O Lord, God of my master Abraham, grant me success today, I beg you, and show mercy to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the maiden to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels, let her be the one whom ye have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown mercy to my masters." So the servant that is sent, also a man of God, he is praying to God. God, how am I going to know that this is the woman? So I'm going to pray that when I get to the well, I'm going to ask give me a drink of water. But without me asking, she's going to not only give me water, but to my camels. Right? You're going to say, why is that in a first read or a second read or a 10th read? It sounds like a small matter what he's asking. It's not at all. The servant is asking something very difficult. You know why? I'll tell you. So you have to be a tiny little camel. You need to study a little bit of camology. Learn a little bit about camels, right? We're going to talk about tiny little bit of knowledge about camology. Why is that what he is asking is a hard thing or an impossible thing? So you have to read a little bit about camels and learn about the little bit of camels to understand what he is praying. Camels are about 1,200 to 1,400 pounds. And these are all just general knowledge. So you can just investigate. So 1,200 to 1,400 pounds. They can lose 25% of their weight as they travel. They can go without drinking for 2 weeks. They can drink in a given day 5 to 20 gallons, and they can drink up to even 50 gallons in one drinking because they've lost hundreds of their pounds of their body weight in water, and they will take it back, yes, if they are drinking. If, let's say, these camels are going to consume Give me a gallons, number of gallons that they'll consume if you were to give them water. 5, 10, 20 gallons per camels. Now there are 10 of them. What are we talking about here? We're talking about hundreds of pounds, right? 1 gallon is almost 4 pounds. If they were, let's say, gonna drink 25 gallons each, that's 250 gallons. That's 1,000 pounds of water. There's a low threshold and a high threshold. What he is asking, the woman needs to be such a kind of woman that will even volunteer without him asking. Let's continue the story. Verse 15. Before he had done speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar upon her shoulder. The maiden was very fair to look upon, a virgin, whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please give me a little water to drink from your jar." She said, "Drink, my lord." And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw for your camels also, until they have done drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, and ran again to the well to draw. And she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. When the camels had done drinking, the man so let's stop there. When the camels had done drinking. So she is using a jar. So it's easy to get the camels to get water from a river, but she's getting them through a jar, putting into a jar and carrying to the camels. Do you see? Like sometimes you don't see the virtues of this woman, Rebekah. Like you just gloss over it. Why is she so friendly? Why is Rebekah so friendly? What is it in for Rebekah to be so generous? The man hasn't done anything. If there's anything, you would keep away from men. There are 10 camels and they're all men and the servants with him. She's respectful. She loves her neighbor as herself. Jesus says, "I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink." They're thirsty. You have a jar, they don't. You will see in a little bit that she's going to offer food and even lodging. That's what Jesus says. "I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And I needed housing, you took me in." It doesn't look very obvious, but what he was asking was not only almost very difficult, but almost impossible. Because he didn't know how she's going to know, how the servant is going to find this woman. There were millions of people on the face of the earth. You remember only 500 years later, when Moses leaving Egypt, there were 600,000 men that are over age of 20 out of Israelites alone. If there were just as equal number of females, and then let's say every family had a couple of children, there were 2, 3, 4 million of Israelites coming out of Egypt only 500 years later. There are millions of people living on the face of the earth. How are they supposed to find this girl that it's supposed to be meant for Isaac? Like father, like son. Did anybody ask Isaac about this method of getting a wife for Isaac? Did Abraham has a conversation? How old is Isaac at this point? Does anybody know? It tells us that in chapter 25, verse 19, that he was 40 years old. He's 40 years old. Did anybody ask him? Did Abraham ask, son, is it okay? I'm going to send my servant, not even myself. I'm not going to choose. I'm entrusting my servant to go 600 miles to my family and gonna get you a wife without you seeing her. Like father, like son. Last week we talked about how whether Isaac was a willing subject or he was unwilling when Abraham was about to put him onto the altar to sacrifice. I have this funny picture in my mind. If he wasn't willing, there at Mount Moriah, he started running down the hill to the men that they left behind and telling them, my father's trying to kill me. And Abraham is at the top of the mountain looking up to God. How do I supposed to sacrifice? He ran out of my hands. Can you see this in your head? That he perhaps had to reason with Isaac and say, son, I trust God. I trust God. Like father, like son. Isaac perhaps trusted. Again, perhaps, we're talking about perhaps, making assumptions. Trusted God, trusted his father, and this is very consistent. Now, he's 40 years old, that his father is going to get a wife for his son Isaac. He trusts him. He honors his mother and his father. And you're going to see that it's going to be a consistent theme with Isaac's son Jacob, Jacob's son Joseph, that they honor their mother and father because they trust God and they trust their parents. It says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and you may live long life on the earth. Let's pause a little bit because this is a godly trait. Look what it says. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Look how it's phrased. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. So if they're not in the Lord, let's say your father's a thief and he tells you, go out and steal something. Are you supposed to do that? No. If your father is greedy, he wants you to be greedy and be worldly. Do you have to listen to that? No. But if you obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. How is this so? It says in verse 2 that honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. Why is Paul talking like this? Why is the honor your father and mother is the first commandment? So when Moses came down from the mountain, he had 2 tablets in his hand. This side had the first 4 commandments. The first commandment on this side was, you shall have no God except me, is the first commandment, and the other 3 commandments underneath. This side was honor your mother and father. Do not murder is underneath that one. This is the first commandment. Honor your mother and father. So this was relating to people. This is relating to your relationship with God. So this was the first commandment on the tablet. Honor your father and mother. And it comes with a promise that it may go well with you and you may live long life on the earth. So when do you stop obeying your father and mother? When you're 18 years old? When you're 20 years old? When you're 40 years old? If you have a godly parents, you are to honor them until the day they die. Why? Because it will go well with you. And like his father, like son, Isaac is a man of God. That's why God says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Right? Many times. That's the three characters are put together. I'm just showing you how Isaac is a man that trusts in God. Therefore, he trusts in his godly father. Even, you would say, what are the biggest decisions in human life on earth? Right? One of them is to whether to choose God or not, because it will have eternal consequences. What's the next biggest decision you will ever make in life? Who you're going to marry. It's going to have tremendous consequences to your life. And Isaac trusts his father, who trusts his servant. Verse 22. So this noble woman named Rebekah is taken on the impossible task of, in my opinion, very difficult for a lady to pull out hundreds of pounds of water, perhaps even hundreds of gallons of water. And 1 gallon is almost 4 pounds, with a little jar or whatever the jar she had in her hand, and she satisfies all 10 camels. The man took a gold ring after the camels drank. Then the man took a gold ring weighing a half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms and weighing 10 gold shekels and said, tell me, whose daughter you are? Is there a room in your father's house for us to lodge in? She said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She added, we have both straw and food enough and room to lodge in. Who told you to invite the stranger into the house? Who told you to invite strangers that you have place for them to stay and food to eat, and camels have food as well? She was a normal woman. She loved her neighbor. She also was trusting. You would say, whoa, this is dangerous. But she was a woman of God. And she trusted God by being kind to the strangers, loving her neighbor, who perhaps she can do some kindness. Verse 26, the man bowed his head and worshiped the Lord and said, blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his mercy in his faithfulness towards my master. As for me, the Lord has led me into the way to the house of my master's kinsman. Then the maiden ran and told her mother's household about these things. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out to the man to the spring. When he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arm, when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, thus the man spoke to me. He went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. This is Laban inviting them. So the man came into the house, and Laban ungirded the camels and gave him straw and food for the camels and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I've told my errand. He said, speak on. So he said, I'm Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master. He has become great. He has given him flock and herds, silver and gold, men servants and maid servants, camels and donkey. Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all he has. My master made me swear, saying, you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But you shall go to my father's house and to my kindred and take a wife for my son. I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow me. But he said to me, the Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you and prosper your way. I'll pause there for a second. Look at what Abraham says. The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you and prosper your way. You guys remember that some time ago we talked about how Abraham was talking to God and God tells him in Genesis chapter 17, when Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. You guys remember that? God told him to walk before me, face me, have a relationship with me, and be righteous, be blameless.
Who was he talking to?
This is when Abraham was 99 years old. God told Abraham, walk before me and be blameless. Now, verse 40, it says, this is Genesis 24, verse 40, but he said to me, the Lord before whom I walk. He was 99 years old. Now he's 140 years old. He has taken that to heart. He has been walking before God all this time that God asked him. Am I clear? The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you and prosper your way. God told me to walk with him, walk before me, and be blameless. I've done it. Therefore, God is going to send his angels to prosper your way. Look at the kind of confidence he has. And you shall take a wife for my son from my kindred and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath. When you come to my kindred, and if they will not give her to you, you'll be free from my oath. Listen to the logic here. He sends a servant, says, go get a wife from these people. And I've been walking with God all these decades. And he's going to send his angel to prosper you. But if the woman doesn't want to come, you're released from the responsibility. So what would happen then? Let's say the woman doesn't want to come. What happens to Isaac? Who's he going to marry now? The servant was told that you're not going to get a wife from the Canaanite, among the Canaanites. There's only one way it can go. Either you're going to marry my people over there who have fear of God or love of God, or he's not going to marry a Canaanite woman. And how is this servant testing this whole thing, that this is from God? Puts an impossible task, very difficult task, that I'm going to ask this woman to give me a drink of water, and she's going to volunteer without me asking to to give water to my camels. I don't know if you see how you need to be faithful to God, that you're not going to just walk into a situation unless God makes it very clear that this is from God. Keep that thought. Verse 42, I came today to the spring and said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if not, you will prosper the way. If now, you will prosper the way which I'll go. Behold, I'm standing by the spring of water. Let the young woman who comes out to draw, to whom I shall say, please give me a little water from your jar to drink, and who will say to me, drink, and I'll draw for your camels also. Let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I've done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her water jar on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew, and I said to her, please let me drink. She quickly let down her jar from her shoulder and said, drink, and I'll give your camels drink also. So I drank, and she gave the camels drink also. Then I asked her, whose daughter are you? She said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelet on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord, and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the night right way to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you will deal loyally and truly with my master, tell me. If not, tell me, that I shall turn to the right hand or to the left." Then Laban and Bethuel answered, "The thing comes from the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go. Let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken." Whoa. Stranger comes in, tells a story. They're ready to send the daughter or their sister away to 1,000 kilometers away. Why? Because they see the hand of God. They trust God. They see the hand of God. Wow. It says, "The thing comes from the Lord. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go." And let me give you a little backdrop. Abraham is 140 years old now. Do you know when he left their relatives? You know how old Abraham was when he left his relatives to go to the land of Canaan? Anybody?
Nurses.
75. 65 years have elapsed that he has walked away from his relative because God told him to move to Canaan. 65 years ago, he moved out of the area. But they remember him. They don't say, "We trust Abraham." It says, "This is from Lord, from God." See, Abraham is trying to look for a godly bride for his godly son. And you can see the fate of the other family. Verse 52, when Abraham's servant heard their words and bowed himself to the earth before the Lord, and the servant brought forth jewelry of silver and of gold and raiment, and raiment means raiment, it means clothing, gave them to Rebekah. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. He and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me back to my master." Her brother and her mother said, "Let the maiden remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that she may go." But he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Let me go, that I may go to my master." They said, "We will call the maiden and ask her." And they called Rebekah and said to her, "Would you go with this man?" She said, "I will go." How would a girl like her in one day trusts to go with the strangers? They just met the day before. I don't know if you see, there's tremendous trust in God. There's a tremendous trust in Abraham, tremendous trust in Isaac. There's a tremendous trust in the servant, right? The way that he's praying is asking something super difficult or impossible so that he knows that this is from God. Laban, the brother of this girl, Rebekah, their father, Bethuel, their mother, and Rebekah. There's a lot of trust in God and each other. Wow, this is incredible. She said, "I will go." So they sent away Rebekah and their sister and her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah, said to her, "Our sister, be the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them." Then Rebekah and her maids arose and rode upon the camels and followed the men. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. By the way, it says, "Our sister, be the mother of thousands of 10,000s." That happens. The entire nation of Israel comes out of these two people, basically, Isaac and Rebekah. Now Isaac, verse 62, now Isaac had come from Berlaharoi, and he was dwelling in Negev. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field in the evening. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there were camels coming. Rebekah lifted up his eyes, and when he saw Isaac, she alighted from the camel and said to the servant, "Who is the man yonder, walking in the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil, covered herself, and the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent, took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. There are many lessons to learn from this story. Number one, this is going to be an ongoing theme. Honor your mother and father in the Lord. If you have a godly mother or father, honor him. It will go well with you. This is the first commandment with a promise. Why do you do that? Because you trust God. Why do you do that? Because you trust your mother or father who is in the Lord. That is the lesson. Number one. Number two, if, this is a condition, remember, if walk before him and be righteous, men, your life is made out. All the big things that you are going to be wondering in your life is going to be, it's like a perfect precision. The Abraham's servant leaves the country and meets the one and only girl on the face of the earth. One and only girl for Isaac that was made, a match made in heaven. Exact precision. How is so? The angel of the Lord or God himself is your guide. How is this applicable? Man, there are many decisions in life, young or old. Where should I work? Where God has a place for me. There are many jobs I could have, many professions I could pursue. Where should I live? Where should I buy my house? Where should I rent? What subject should I study in college? What career should I go into? Who to marry? Don't you think these are big decisions? If you walk before him, God himself will be your guide. His angels will be your guide. Your way will prosper. I'm not saying it will be easy. There's going to be perhaps some troubles on your way, but they're there to teach you certain things. It's okay. We see that in the examples of Jacob, for example. It doesn't mean it's going to be all rosy, but God, who is sovereign, is going to guide you. You're going to see his benefits. Right? We started the story in Genesis 24, and Abraham was old, well advanced in his years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. All of your way will be blessed. All of your ways will be blessed. All of your ways. Even though you may think like, why is this terrible thing happening to me? All of your ways will be blessed. Why? Because you chose to walk before him and be righteous, be blameless. If you're not walking before him and you're not blameless, you're not righteous, you're not trying to be righteous, you're just sabotaging yourself. Pursue a relationship with God. And all of your ways are going to be prosperous. God knows with exact precision all the things that you're wondering. Young or old, doesn't matter. With exact precision. Because his angels are going to guide you. He himself is going to guide you. But you have to walk before him and try to be blameless. And like father, like son. Honor your father. Honor your mother. Trust your father. Isaac, at 40 years old, was still meek with his father, trusted his father. You know, this whole story kind of like burst the whole bubble about my soulmate. I fell in love. how am I going to find my soulmate? Like, what soulmate? He doesn't even meet her until she comes off the animal. He doesn't even have any choice in it. But God, knowing Isaac, knowing noble Rebekah, perfect match made in heaven. He has done it for them. He will do it for you and me. Don't deprive yourself from the blessings of God. Children, do not deprive yourself of the blessings that are ahead of you by not walking before Him, but turning your back, turning your side, ignore God. Don't do it. You're just depriving yourself. And turn away from your sins, because it's going to be impediment in your relationship with God. Be blameless. Be righteous. The whole heaven is for you. His angels are your ministering servants. They will guide you. They'll guide me. With the brotherhoods around us, giving us direction and hope, we're going to prosper in everything we do. Whether we think something bad is happening, God is like teaching us things and making us learn things, and it's a blessing in all things. Honor your parents. Walk before Him so that He can guide you in all of your ways.